You're tuned in to B&T Unscripted. Get ready for raw, real, and unfiltered conversations with the award-winning radio show host Tiffany Kay and her co-host and fiancé Brandon. It's life, love, and laughter. Unscripted, unpredictable, and unforgettable. Buckle up. You're listening to B&T Unscripted.
Brown now, brown cow.
Are you like practicing like your tongue twisters for
Yeah,
the show?
it was from Anchorman with Will Ferrell.
Never seen it.
No?
Nope.
When he's trying to be a news anchor right before he goes live on air or whatever, he's like, brown now, brown cow.
Yeah, no, I've never done that. Never heard of that.
Yeah.
But I used to do, like, when I was in choir, we did those tongue twisters. It's like, many mumbling mice are making music in the moonlight.
Brown now,
Mighty
brown
nice.
cow. No, I like
Brown now, brown
brown
cow.
now, brown cow.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Nope.
Red leather, yellow leather. Red, yellow. Ooh, can't even do it.
Nope. Now I want to sing Lil Jon, Get Low.
Okay, so moving on.
To the window.
No.
Come on,
no,
people.
that's not what the podcast is about.
Why is my mic cut off? Yeah.
Get out. Anyways, welcome to episode 3, B&T Unscripted. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We appreciate you all so much. We do this for fun, and we do it for you guys.
Yes.
And ourselves. So as long as y'all keep listening, we'll keep making
Yes.
episodes. But today, I have been told what the topic of the episode is. I did not pick this one.
Yes, I guess I was in charge. I don't know who put me in charge, but
Definitely not me.
yeah, it was Buddy.
Come on, buddy. We talked about this.
Yeah. So I thought it would be cool to do an interview on you, Miss Tiffany Kay.
This feels weird. I'm usually the interviewer,
Yeah.
not the interviewee.
Yeah.
This is weird. I'm almost nervous.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But yeah, I guess you thought my story.
I thought it'd be cool to share a little bit more of like an origin story. Where did you come from? You know, how did you get into the radio biz? You know.
Well, it was a long time ago. It was a rainy night. My mom had just climbed up Mount Everest.
And she
Squatted
saw.
down. No, I'm kidding. Whoa!
Whoa! She saw a pair of golden headphones and a microphone.
She's like, that's what my kid will do.
Yeah, and Kid Rock gave you the blessing.
No. I mean, if you think it'll be interesting for people, we can do it. Sure.
Yeah.
So you gotta lead the way, though. What do you want to know?
Yep. So I guess to kick it off is like, where'd you come from? You know?
Well,
Where did you come from?
Long ago. No, I'm kidding. No, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I was born and raised there, all the way through college, actually. So the first time I ever left the state, like to move to live anywhere else, was when I went to Iowa after college.
Wow. I think the next question is like, when did being, I guess, a radio personality like cross your mind, or like how did that come about?
It actually didn't cross my mind until my sophomore year of college, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
But I was always in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
Like my family's an entertainment family. I grew up competitively dancing.
Yep.
I danced since I was 2, competed since I was 5, all the way through college. I was in choir, I was in theater, like anything media or entertainment wise you can think of, I did.
Yeah.
I also did soccer, but I was the only one like in my immediate family who did a sport outside of dance because they're not coordinated in those type of sports. Sorry, Mom, Dad, and Britt, but it's true.
Yeah.
So I did all of that. And I also had a very entertainment-based family, like I said. My parents own their own entertainment company, their own DJ business. So I grew up with them DJing car shows, weddings, nightclubs.
Wow.
I wasn't there for the nightclubs and not many weddings. But I grew up around that, and I honestly was at a car show, I think a few days after I was born, my mom always says, because she had to go DJ it. So, like, it was cool because, like, my dad was the DJ out in front of the audience. He was a character. He is a character. Whenever he would DJ, when he would do the car shows, those were my summers, right? He would dress up in mismatched socks, mismatched shoes, mismatched shirt, mismatched short, and funny hats.
Yeah.
And that was him. And they called him the geezer. And all the car show people loved him.
That's awesome.
Like, we can't go anywhere to this day in Ohio without somebody recognizing him or knowing him.
That's cool.
And then my mom was behind the scenes, but I always looked up, like, my dad was the first one I saw, like, on a mic, entertain people and just trying to make people happy. Like, he would do stupid things just to make people laugh
Yeah.
or to make people have a good time. And I think that's where, like, my background or, like, my personality trait of, like, not getting embarrassed easily comes from, because there's
And
just like, okay.
entertaining. Yeah.
And, like, they're meant to laugh. They're meant to laugh at you or with you, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So that came from there. And then my mom, of course, worked like the music behind the table, didn't speak as much, but she's very knowledgeable about that. My dad is too. So I got to see both sides of that. And then on top of that, like, my mom was a professional ballroom dancer at one point
Yeah.
and teacher, which is how my parents met. My
Yeah.
dad was a drummer in a band in high school, I think.
Yeah.
And a singer too.
Oh, wow.
And he started his DJ business at that time with his really good best friend, Johnny. Rest in peace, Johnny.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he passed away a few years ago. And that's kind of how I got the entertainment bug.
Ooh.
But yeah, so that's kind of where my parents came from with all the entertainment. And then, of course, they had me and my sister. Mom got me and my sister straight into dance right away. And then we grew up around my dad and my mom DJing together. So my mom would work the tables behind the scenes, like do all the music and everything. And my dad would be on the mic. And my dad would still come back and do like certain sets of music, but it was like a whole, it was really well run and it was fun to be a part of. So those were my summers growing up. I got to go to car shows and like work 50-50 and do all the DJing and everything.
Yeah.
The first time I ever DJ'd by myself was actually my, I always say pseudo grandfather, Johnny, and his wife Connie's anniversary. I think I was like 10 or something like that, or 11. And I went behind the table and I just started playing music, and mixing it together like
Was
the
it like
oldies.
Disney songs?
No, it was
Oh.
all the oldies. It was the 50s and 60s. That's my superpower, I guess. I love
Ooh.
50s and 60s music.
So you're an old soul.
I am. I think I told you that on like our third date.
Yep.
Absolutely love
Yep.
50s and 60s
The old
music.
cars and stuff.
Old cars, all that. So I know most of those, and I started like listening and see what works well together, and I started doing it there. So there's a picture my parents have at their house in Ohio of my first ever time behind the table DJing by myself.
Wow.
But for all that being said, I never ever considered radio. Never growing up.
Never.
I don't think I ever thought it was a job. Like, think about it. When you're sitting in the car, like growing up, you don't think of radio as a job.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, there's people on there. Okay.
They just do it for fun.
I don't know. I just like, I didn't even think of it like in the job realm. I just figured it was like people who got together and did it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and then I got into college, and I actually went to college for, I started off with criminology because I wanted to be like the criminal minds investigator, like a profiler.
Yeah.
And for those who know me, you just like literally rolled your eyes. For those who know me, you know I love all things dark and like creepy and psychology, and I like figuring out why people do things, especially when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I want to do this, you know? And time went on, and I got into my first sociology class, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. And I'm the type who I love school. I loved it as a kid. I loved it growing up. I was the nerd who, after school ended, the next day I'd be like, can we go get school supplies for next year?
Yeah.
Or like the first day I'd come back, I'd come home and I'd be upset when I came home from school. My mom would be, what's wrong? I'd be like, I don't have homework. Like, I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was such a nerd, but I loved doing that stuff. So when I realized like I didn't like the class, I knew it wasn't for me. You know?
I don't know, coming from a psychology major, you know, and currently in my grad program, when I had to take it at, I think it was like VCU or something like that, I didn't like sociology because to me it was just focusing on a group and not
the individual.
like a certain population they were focusing on, and not the individual. I care, well, not to make it sound like I don't care about populations,
Of
but I
course.
do care for populations, but I was more focusing on helping individuals with whatever they were going through, right? Or veterans, whatnot. But anyways, I know what you're saying because I kind of found it boring too.
Yeah,
I was like, this ain't for me.
When I'm reading my book on my iPad in the middle of class, you know I'm bored at that point. Like, I only ever did that with math. Sorry, math people, I hate math. Like, I cannot stand it.
I used to hate it, but I kind of found my niche.
It's a man thing. I'm so convinced. You guys are all just good at math. My dad was.
Yeah.
His dad was. My best friend's dad is the best at it. You know what I mean? Like, I swear to God, it's a man thing.
Yeah, I think there's a study behind that, but that could be another conversation.
Yeah.
We can dive into all the nerdy stuff.
Yeah. But so I did that, and then I got out of it and was like, I don't know what I want to do now. So then I picked my next route was becoming a dance major. Because like I said, I was a dancer growing up. I already had the minor, and then realized my body is too broken to do any of that. So like I can still dance, and I do this day. I part-time teach dance and everything, but I had so many injuries growing up that after a while, like for those who don't know in the dance world, after there's too many injuries, usually a company don't want to take you because it's a liability because you've been injured so many times, right? Yeah. Like it's bound to happen again. So I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. Then I was like, I'll do the theater program. Auditioned, didn't get in. Because it was a very, very, very selective school. And I say selective, like I went to Otterbein University, and that is like one of the top like schools in the country for theater. Yeah. They only take 10 per class a year.
Wow.
For their theater class, for like theater majors.
Yeah.
And people are flying in from all over outside the country and all the country to audition for them.
Wow.
So they're the best of the best. So I didn't get in there, which is whatever. And then I was like, I don't know what else to do because I didn't want to leave that school. Yeah. Like I wanted to stay at Otterbein. I had made friends. It was my freshman year. And so I kept going back and forth. There was like one of the worst Christmases I had because I went home for Christmas break. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And like crying the whole time, like, my life's over. This is what I thought I wanted. You know, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my life?
It's the worst thing ever.
It is at the time.
God. Yeah.
And then I don't know if it was my sister or my mom who brought up communication and just looking into that because I was looking at majors and like, they're like, oh, you could do radio. And I was like, no. Like, I immediately said no because it was what I considered it to be close to what my parents did. Like DJing growing up. Like, they weren't on radio, but they still do that aspect.
Similar. Yeah.
And I am the type who doesn't want to do anything like anybody else.
Yeah,
like,
you
in
want
my
to do
family.
your own lane.
Yeah, like, to give an example, my sister absolutely loves spaghetti and meat sauce. And growing up, I knew she liked it. So I hated it. And I only like Alfredo. Because she liked
you went out your way just to be different.
Yes, and I've done that my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I can't do that. But the communication program at Otterbein required, like, if I went, it had multiple options. I thought PR for a second to be an event person, and I was like,
Like with all the concerts and stuff?
Yeah, to like set them all up and stuff, which I still thought would be cool, and sometimes I do, but I'm not that organized. Like, I'm organized, but not to that point.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I want to be on TV. Like, I wanted to do entertainment TV. Yeah. Like, I hate hard news. Sorry, news people. I hate it. It's depressing. Like, it's just not something I wanted to do.
It takes a certain type of person.
It does. And shout out to you guys. I just did not want to do that.
That's a hard thing to do. Yeah.
So when I got into it, the program that Otterbein has, or at least had when I was there, was journalism and media communications. So that's my major. And that's what my degree is in. But in order to get that degree, you had to do TV, writing, radio, and web design. So I had to do all of those.
So it's like you had to learn all the trades in that field? Yeah.
So like now I'm considered, my job title is I'm a multimedia journalist because I can do all of those.
Okay.
But all of us find our specialized like niche, right?
Like what you like.
Yeah, we all do in the department, and you figure that out as you go through. But I really want to do TV. But the TV practicum wasn't open for the next semester. Yeah. So I'm like, I knew I had to get the radio one out of the way. So I'm like, whatever. I'll just do it. I don't want to, but whatever. So before that happened, this was the summer before my sophomore year, I actually went to visit iHeart radio stations in Columbus because my dad had met a guy at a car show. We were working at the zoo. And he is an announcer for iHeart. Yep. He has his own show and everything. He's also a PD there and program director. And we had met him at one of the things we're doing because he was being the announcer for this charity car show. Yeah. And he come over and he kind of talked to my dad, then talked to me, exchanged numbers. He said, come on in, I'll show you around. And so I went in, shout out to Mike Island. I went into iHeart Studios with him and I stood behind the console and the country station. I still remember 92.3. It's in Columbus. It's the country station, and I ended up actually recording a commercial for him because he wanted me to.
Just to try it.
Yeah. And I ended up being one take and done, which he was impressed with. And as soon as I left there, I was like, this is what I meant to do.
You liked it.
I loved it.
You were like hooked.
I felt at home. I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do every day. This
Was
is
it like
so
butterflies?
Cool. Not butterflies, just like a feeling or a sense of like, yep.
That was it.
This is it. This is what I want.
That clicked.
Yeah. It was just so cool. And so that's kind of where it started for me. So it didn't start until my sophomore year, because summer before sophomore year of college, I wanted to do radio. And then immediately when I went back, I literally immersed myself in that radio world. I was on the college station, WOBN. We were on FM. We were on car radios, you know. Not many, but we were. Yeah. I made my radio friends there, my multimedia journalist friends there, because we all had different niches.
Specialties.
Right? Like, I'm still friends with them to this day. You've met them.
Yep.
One of them.
Very nice people.
By the time we got to our senior year, one of them was the operations manager for the TV department. I was the general manager for the radio department. And then my other friend was actually the main editor for the website and the school newspaper. So we kind of ran the media.
So everyone had a certain specialty. That's cool.
Yeah. So we ended up actually like running the media group for Otterbein for our senior year together, which was so much fun. And then my good friend and co-host at the time, Boog, was actually behind the scenes with me, and he did a lot of like video production stuff for us. And he did radio and TV and all of it too. Like he loved all of it. Some of us just had we did it all. Like the ones who were on TV and writing were still on radio with me, and I was still on writing with them. Like we did it all.
You had to learn all of it.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. We just like had our specialties.
What y'all liked.
Yeah,
more.
and who people knew who to go to for it. So, and then like I said, Boog showed up. And ironically, he's actually my mentor and iHeart's nephew.
Oh. Okay.
And so we became best friends my sophomore year.
Nice.
Some really good friends. Ended up creating a radio show together. Did it for 3 years, for the last 3 years of our career there. So that's kind of how I got into it, you know?
And like there wasn't like a day you wanted to quit in college, or can you pick a day where you're like, oh my gosh, no. I want to take it back, you know?
No.
So.
There was not one day I wanted to quit after I figured out that's what I wanted
really?
to do.
No bad day, nothing that, like, you had a plan. Did you have a plan B or anything?
I did not.
Nothing. You didn't want to, like, I don't know, TV or be a writer?
No.
Nothing.
I was always said I would do TV, like, as I moved on in my career. Because I could do it all. But, no, I didn't have a plan B. It was always, I got to get on a radio station. I got to be on radio. And that's what it was. Wow. You know, I had my dance minor. But that was more fulfilling a passion of mine. You know, like I absolutely love dance. It was my first language, I always say. Yeah. I did it since I was 2 or 3. And that's how I learned how to communicate without being able to communicate. Yeah. And that's why I still do it to this day. But that wasn't a plan B of like, I'm going to go do this, you know, and make a career out of it. No.
Wow. So, all right, so you graduated, did all the cool stuff, you know, did your 3 years of, I guess it was like an internship maybe.
You could say
Try
that.
to like learn everything and get your practice in. So can you walk me through the progress? Because I'm still lost in the sauce when it comes to the radio stuff. Yeah. And I'm sure the listeners are too. And it's kind of like a mysterious world, kind of. Yeah. Because it's a very niche thing. And everyone I talk to is like, yeah, radio is like you said, like you didn't think people actually did it for a living. Yeah. So try to walk me through it because I'm learning too, and the listeners. Like, can you explain, like, how do you go about, like, after college, you graduate, like, what was your job search process like first? Yeah. And, like, did you run into any challenges, or, like, did you have, and to add on to that question, what was your, like, golden, holy grail, like, your, like, dream, like, location, you know?
Oh, dream location.
Yeah, I guess dream job, dream location, you know, whatever.
So I would say, in terms of that, I always said I was going to be, and this isn't egotistical, this is just, like, what I thought. I was like, I'm going to be the next Ryan Seacrest with the female version. Oh, okay. So I wanted to dominate radio, TV, and writing. Wow. And part of me still does. Part of me really does. Yeah. Things in life have changed a little bit, priorities and everything, which isn't a bad thing at all. It's just, that's what I always said. And I think, so going back to, so I graduated college, right? I already had an internship because I had to do it for a credit my senior year. And it was with a AM station in Ohio, and it was a car show in the morning. So they talked about cars, fixing cars. People called in and told them what their problem is, and the host would answer what it was.
Wow.
And once again, I met them through car shows I did with my dad, you know? So like, no, my dad did not get me a job or anything like that. I made my own way. It was just a connection I had.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I actually was bumped up from internship to producer the summer before I left for my first actual radio job. So I did that for the whole summer. And then I ended up actually, so how it works with radio, it really is who you know a lot of times.
Yeah.
But then again, it's not, because I got my jobs differently than most would. So I did have mentors in iHeart, multiples, who were helping me, who were really helping me refine my demo, which is basically 2 minutes of short audio clips of you on air, saying the station, saying the call letters, saying the numbers, the dial numbers, saying like funny jokes or whatever your shtick is, being you. And you have to put it into 2 minutes. And you have to catch that program director's ear within the first 15 seconds, or else they're going to turn it off and move on.
Yeah.
And so I had great mentors to help me figure out how to do that at first. As I moved along my career, I started getting an ear for it, figuring out what I wanted and what I didn't want, but I had to do that. So I did that. And then when I was at first applying for jobs, there was a website for just radio people and just radio jobs. That's now gone away as of the past year it has. But it was. And so I just looked on there and I applied to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like every single thing I could think of that I was qualified for. I applied to major market co-hosting jobs. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just applying to everything.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care. Like, they're going to see my name. And if they're like, she don't have any experience for this, okay, but they saw my name.
Yeah.
You never know. So I applied to everything. And I actually got 2 days before I graduated, I got a call from a job in Alabama who wanted to talk with me, had the interview. Then they wanted to fly me out to see the area.
Wow.
Usually in radio, if they want to fly you out, more than likely you're going to get an offer because they're paying for all that. Right?
Yeah.
And so they wanted to fly me out. And they're like, well, when are you free? I'm like, well, I graduate on Sunday. They're like, cool, we'll fly you out Monday. So I literally flew out the day after I graduated college to Alabama.
Wow.
Showed up there, talked with him. It was great. It just wasn't the place for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so moved on, kept reaching out to people. A couple weeks later. And I did this all cold calling. These were all cold resumes, cold demos sent to everybody. So I didn't have anybody really helping. Like, I had mentors and they did help me a lot.
Yeah.
But the job I ended up getting, ironically, happened to be just through me applying. You know,
Yeah.
I talked to people, I talked to other people, and they really helped me refine my demo and my resume, which was great, but it wasn't a connection to a job yet, right?
Yeah.
Which was fine. So I went through 2 months. I ended up going to Washington State, flew out there, wasn't the job for me, talked with some people in another couple states, and then finally, about 5 months after I graduated, got a call from Iowa, and I just applied there out of the blue, and it happened to be a morning show position for a co-host. And for those who don't know, in radio, usually you're supposed to start from the bottom up. So you either start in the promotions department, and then maybe, just maybe, someone will hear your voice and get you, hey, come into the studio real quick. I need some voice for a commercial.
Yeah.
And go from there. Or you get started in radio, but you get started on the overnight shift, which is usually the shift that, like, it's the graveyard shift, right?
No one wants to do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that shift that people are like, okay, like, I guess I have to work from there. And then you go from there to nights to afternoons, middays. Morning show is usually seen as the top of the crop of, you know, where you want to be in day parts.
Yeah.
It gets the most money, and it's because it's
Most
morning
views.
most views, and it's because it's the most drive time, right? You're in the car on the way to work. That's when you're going to listen.
Yeah.
You want entertainment. You don't want just music in the morning. That's usually what happens. But I ended up just putting my resume out there and got someone to call me to do a morning co-host position. And I
Wow.
went out, I visited, and I was like, let's do it. So I was a morning co-host in Iowa for 2 years
Yep.
for a country station. And then decided it was time to move on, that I wanted to learn more in a bigger market. And so I was like, okay, let's start looking. And of course, I start looking during the pandemic, which wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, everything shut down.
Oh my gosh, everything. I'm like, I'm never going to get a job. I'll just have to stay here,
Yeah.
and like love my Iowa family, but it just wasn't the place for me at that point.
Yeah.
And so finally ended up actually getting reached out to once again. I just put my resume out there. This wasn't through people I know. This was me just applying randomly to cold jobs.
Yeah.
And got here. Like got my resume and demo listened to, and my social media looked at, and ended up in Virginia, in Fredericksburg, for 3 years.
And are you allowed to like walk us through, like, can you go through like the interview process for this Fredericksburg position?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of interviews, and usually radio is, but this one I ended up talking to the former programming director.
Mm-hmm.
And then him and I had a good conversation. It was a quick just phone call, like, hey, get to know you, whatever. And then waited about a week or two, and then got reached back out to, hey, we're narrowing it down from 100 people. They had 100 that they were looking at least, if not more. We'll get back with you. Okay, a month later. Hey, would love to have another conversation with you. I was like, okay, that's fine. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Talked to the program director again. Didn't hear from him for about 2 weeks. And then I got an email saying, hey, we want you to talk with the host of the show.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So get on a video chat while I'm in Iowa with the host here in Virginia.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 20 minutes, just get to know each other, see if the vibe's there, right?
Yeah.
And that 20 minutes turned into about an hour or two of us just talking about life and everything.
Yeah.
And laughing and everything. So we knew there was something special there.
Mm-hmm.
So then about a week and a half later, got reached back out to by the co-host saying, hey, let's try to put together our own demo of what the show would sound like so that we can show it to corporate to get their ears on it.
See what it would sound like.
Yeah. So we actually did it all through Zoom.
Wow.
Because I couldn't come here. It was COVID.
Yeah.
And we did it all through Zoom together. And we put together this demo of these little bits. And it was really cool. But about 2 days later, I got reached back out to by the host. And he's like, hey, I want to make this the best thing they're ever going to listen to. Like, I want it to be perfect. Because basically saying, like, I'm the one he wants for the job. But we need to make sure we convince corporate that it's going to be good. So,
can I ask something? The reason why that co-host said that, was it because you were so young and or like new, I guess? Was it new?
I think so. I think that was part of it, like I went to Iowa 2 years out of college. So at that point, I'm 23, I think. So I was there, and then I left around age 25 and came here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, part of it was I think young. And to be honest, that had my co-host worried a little bit too here in Virginia.
Because you were new-ish? I
was new, but I was still green, but I wasn't. It was just the young factor, because you have different versions of young. People have always told me I'm sound older than I am. I'm wise for my age. I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. Then you do have ones who just come out of college, or, even in that stage where it's young is young, you can tell they're young.
Yeah.
And for the demo we were trying to reach within our listeners here in Virginia, we didn't want me sounding young. And he knew I didn't sound that way. But yeah, if you look at my age on a sheet, it's like, what life experience does she have? Can she
keep up?
Can she relate to a demo of, 29 or 28 to 35?
Yeah.
Or 32 to 40?
Wow.
Can I relate to those people?
Yeah.
Will they have something to relate to me, or just be like, oh no, she's young sounding?
Yeah.
So that would be part of the reason why.
Okay.
And the other one is just selling it, because they had talked to people who'd been in radio for much longer than me, or who had more experience, or or names they knew, who just didn't get along as well with my host than I did. And so it was, let's put it together. But then 2 days later, it was, hey, can we redo parts of this? I just want to fix it so it sounds blah. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready. I want this job.
Refine it.
Yeah. I was like, I want this job. Let's go. So we did it again over Zoom. Got it sent up corporate ladder. And then it was the week of Halloween, ironically.
Yeah.
That I didn't hear anything for a while. And it was the week of Halloween in 2020 the day before, 2 days before, I think.
Yeah.
I was about to leave my job in Iowa, not leave it, but like leave to go pick up my friend from the airport because she was coming in for Halloween that weekend.
Yeah.
And I was about to walk out the door and I get a call and it's from the program director here, well, the old one. And he was like, hey, like, I just want to update you on what's going on. I know it's been a while since we talked. We went through a bunch of applicants. You know, we've had like 100. We narrowed it down to a few.
Wow.
To you and a couple others. And, you know, you got the job. And that's how he said it. Like, it wasn't even like a lead up. It was just like, you got the job.
It was like quick.
I was like, wait, what? Like,
wow.
I was like, and I'm in my office at my old job, right? And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, if you want to take it. And I was like, okay. And I always do this thing. I'm like, I want to talk. I want to like a little, like, I want a day to think about it, right?
Yeah.
I need to talk with people, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, if I need to talk to your parents or anything, like, we'll get you in here.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's great.
That's cool.
Just give me 24 hours. And I called my mom and I told her, she's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to take it, you know?
Yeah.
She goes, so do it. And so legit, not kidding you, 15 minutes later, I called him back and I was like, yep, I want to take the job. Like, it wasn't 24 hours. It was 15 minutes later, you know? And he's like, okay. And so I ended up driving to pick up my friend from the airport. And she got in the car and I was like, guess what? I'm moving, you know? And so that Halloween weekend, I remember, was like insane because we were just celebrating that.
That's awesome.
And then 2 months later, I was, well, actually a month later, I was here in Virginia.
Wow.
So that's how that interview process went. And it goes different for everybody.
Everyone's different.
You know, it used to be you got flown out here and that's when you get offered the job, right? But because of COVID, that couldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't get flown out here because of worries of COVID and traveling. And then that was still at the time you had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After you traveled and all that stuff.
Yeah, all the rules and stuff.
So the first time I ever met my co-host in person was the first day of my job.
Wow. Like in person.
Yep.
Though. Yeah.
First time I ever saw Virginia was when I walked into my apartment that I looked at online and hoped for the best.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
That's taking a risk.
That's scary.
Yeah. Isn't it? Like that's taking a risk. And it's so funny because I'll totally take risks in life in terms of my job.
Yeah.
In terms of certain other things, which this is a whole nother conversation, but it's so funny because I'll take risks in that, but I'm so afraid of risks in relationships. You know this.
Yeah.
That it's just funny, like, where it falls.
How it differs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, that was the interview process to get here. And so now I'm back in that interview process, talking with other companies and stuff, but it feels different now because I've established myself. I'm no longer green.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting going back into that process with a different mindset. Than like, oh, you're in college. Oh, I'll just take any job I can get.
Yeah.
Please take me. Which I still had a different mindset about that because I don't want to come off like egotistical or anything like that, which I don't think it is. I just knew my value, my worth, what I'd worked so hard to do, and the experience I brought to the table. Because I still, like, granted, I wasn't in a radio station, but I was DJing technically since I was a kid.
It's been part of your family and history and stuff like that, lifestyle.
So even picking my first job, I was still picky with it.
Yeah.
I just wasn't going to take the first one. Like, I knew what I could bring to the table and what value I had. You know? And I honestly, like, if I were to give any advice out with this podcast, I would say to anybody who's newly looking for that or looking for a job or newly out of college, know your worth. Because there are a lot of companies who just want to, oh, you just want a job? Okay, come over here. And they're not necessarily going to pay you what you should be paid, or they're not necessarily going to do certain things.
I think this would be the first on the podcast. I think sometimes you have to earn your stripes.
I agree.
Though, you know?
I agree.
So I will put a little, I guess, you know, disagreement in there.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, yes, I feel like you should try to get where you want to be. But sometimes I think you have to earn your stripes, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think
before you can get to that, you know, say Nashville or
like
Dallas, Texas, you know.
I don't think like I do agree. You have to earn your stripes. I'm not saying if you're coming out of college right away or a newbie, you're like, oh my God, I'm the best. I need to be getting $100,000 or something like that. You know, like I'm not saying that. You're not going to get your dream job out of college. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but most people are not going to.
Unfortunately.
I still think you need to earn your stripes. So I still do earn my stripes. Like I started in a small market.
Yeah, you did.
Moving up, I moved to like small medium market here in Virginia. I'm still looking to work my way up the ladder. I don't think you're ever going to go from A to Z.
Yeah.
I just think you don't have to take the first job.
Take your time.
Yeah,
basically.
take your time. You don't have to get the first job you look at.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you don't have to get the lowest paying ever if you've done work in that area that you're looking at before.
Well, you got to pay your bills, right?
Yes.
At least try to pay your bills, right? You
Right.
don't want
right.
people
It's
kicking
just
down
two
your
different
door.
thought processes, But I'm not saying like you're going to get your dream job.
No.
Loved Iowa, but that was never the dream job. And people there knew it too.
Yeah.
They knew I wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
But
you're
it
grateful
was my start.
for the times you
Yeah,
had.
exactly.
You always said all the good times you had.
Yeah, I still have friends there and everything.
Yeah.
Same way with here. Love Virginia. Didn't leave on my timing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which, how this whole thing started. But still, it was a stepping stone for me.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens next.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it was a blessing in disguise because you wouldn't have me interviewing you. Mm-hmm. Never in my world or wildest dreams. Yes, thank you. What I thought I would be interviewing a ACM award winner radio person. It's kind of cool because during my time in the Marine Corps, I was a radio operator. So it's kind of funny, but anyways, that's a sidebar conversation, but getting off topic. But yes, never would I have thought I would be interviewing an award winner and stuff like that and being able to contribute to your new adventure. So if it wasn't for that unfortunate event, we wouldn't be here. So I'm so grateful actually that happened.
We always say it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
So.
And if I can I know we're going a little over time on this one, which is fine, but I don't know if this was going to be your next question because you look like you're about to ask one, but I was going to say if I can give any advice to aspiring radio people or just jobs in general, I would say for me personally, you need to have thick skin in this media industry. Yep. You really do. I mean, you've seen that just knowing me for 2 years now. And
actually seeing it in person from the different gatherings we went to or Texas, Yeah. It was interesting.
You need to have thick skin in this industry. It's a lot of big personalities. It's a lot of big egos at times. And to be honest, somebody told me this when I first started radio, and I never clicked with it until I realized that it is true. Every single person in radio or in media or in the media industry, entertainment industry in general, every single one has an ego. It depends on how big it is. If we didn't have an ego, we wouldn't be on air talking about ourselves, right? Or our lives.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the ego is an evil thing.
It's part of the trade.
It's part of the trade, right? It's like, hey, it's not look at me. It's I'm sharing this with you to connect with you.
Yeah.
So that I can somehow relate.
Like, oh, I relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. So just be aware of that if you go into the entertainment industry. It's just part of it. Having thick skin, you really just don't look at negative comments if you get any. If you have negative comments, unless it's constructive criticism, and there is a fine line and there is a difference between constructive criticism and just full on harassment and bullying.
Yeah.
There is a fine line. Don't listen to the harassment and bullying or the condescension. Listen to the constructive criticism. And then remember to take any not criticism, but any advice or tips or anything. I don't know how else to say it. Get it. Anytime you get any of that, absorb it.
Yeah.
Take what you need, leave what you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you know everything, because obviously if you're just starting out, none of us know anything.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's going to be things that you can take, and sometimes there's going to be things that really don't apply.
Be able to have a filter.
Yeah.
You
don't have to tell that person. You're just like, okay, thank you so much for that advice. That doesn't mean you have to follow it.
We'll just say thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Every negative comment I've gotten most of the time, for the counseling world, I got some negative feedback or something like that, and I'm like, well, thank you, I needed that.
Yeah.
Whether if they were being to be hurtful towards me or not, I'll be like, yep, thank you, dude. Yep. Appreciate it. Yeah.
But I would say, so number one is to realize everybody in entertainment has an ego, but it's how you use that ego, right? Yeah. And I mean, you can agree with me, not just because you're my fiance, but just knowing me when you first met me, I try not to have an ego. I don't think I'm a selfish person, self-centered person. I also can't talk half the time. Self-centered.
Yeah, I think
person.
you're just so hyped up.
I know, I am.
You're like doing your TED Talk speech. You're like,
I know, right? This is your TED Talk by Tiffany. I don't think I'm a self-centered person, or at least I hope not.
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm egotistical.
You have an ego.
I do have an ego, but I don't. It's not perceived in an evil way.
I don't think it's like hurtful manner or
right.
negative. Yeah.
So that's just something to be aware of. To grow thick skin in the entertainment industry would be number 2. You have to. You really do. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to have such a strong belief that no matter how many no's you get or how many people try to bring you down, you're still going to keep going.
Yeah.
That would be number 3.
Don't quit.
Don't quit.
If you really want it.
If you want it, go ahead. And to be honest, if you're one who quits easily or you don't have that much belief for something in yourself, that's not the industry for you. It's just not. And I hate putting that out there, but it isn't. You know?
Yeah.
And I would say number 4, make connections everywhere you go. You never know what can lead to the next because entertainment is about new people you know.
Yeah.
It can also be about people you don't because I got all my jobs through cold calls, basically. Yeah. But I've also met a lot of people along the way who have helped me get to where I am.
Mentors and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So always, always, always connect with people.
Yeah.
You know, send your stuff out there to people you don't even know to say, hey, I'm like new to this industry or new to this. I'm just trying to break in. Would you just give my demo a listen and tell me what you think? That's what I did. I did that for 6 months. Not even asking for a job. Just, hey, will you listen to this? And then once they give you that feedback, you say, thank you so much. Keep me in mind in the future.
Yep.
You know, that's where I got to where I'm at.
So not to keep it over, time or whatever, but I guess my final question for you, for Tiffany Kay, what would be your dream job still right now, where you're at now, and where do you picture yourself, I guess in 10 years, for your dream job? Where do you hope to be or plan to be?
I hate these questions. I hate looking that much forward, but
if you could picture something like perfect.
As long as I am still having fun with it, to be in a major market. To be on a morning show with some of my best friends, including you. And having the time of our lives, having fun with it, making a difference in people's ears all across the US, like having a nationally syndicated show, but also being part of like TV and writing and social media and all that stuff, like making a difference in all ways that I can. That's what I always say. It's not about the fame. It's not about any of that. It's, am I having fun? Number 1, which makes it worth it to me. I'm one of those who, if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do it. And by the way, that would be another piece of advice. If you're not having fun with it, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Because my dad always told me, if you're not going to have fun with it as your job, it's going to feel like work. But yeah, if I'm still having fun with it at that point, it would be to be in all those media outlets.
And I remember you saying like you would want to start a program for the younger generation.
I would. That would be my plan, not plan B, I guess, but side-by-side plans.
So you want your own company.
I want my own company.
Yeah.
I want my own journalism and media company that gives people right out of college, or even not, a chance to actually get their feet wet and a chance to learn the ropes.
Yeah, for the new generation.
Because I'm gonna throw it out there, and other radio posts have said it, there's not a lot of as much young talent as you think anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of like companies are sticking with those who are more experienced and older and everything, which I totally get because they bring in the numbers.
It's everywhere.
It brings in the money and everything. I just don't think that way necessarily about that. And it's really hard to break into this industry unless you know somebody. And if you don't know anybody, it's really freaking hard.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always wanted to make a company that's still real radio. Like we're on people's cars, phones, computers.
Yeah.
And TV. And writing. And website. And social media. But make it a company where we want those hungry new bodies in.
Yeah, to help them learn and grow.
To help them learn and grow.
Way.
And then get them on to wherever they would want to go next. Or they want to stay with us. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what that company could be. But for me, I want to team up with people who want to make a difference for younger kids. And I want to be able to give them an avenue. They know where they can go after college.
Yeah.
Get their feet wet, get that experience, work up the ladder, as you said.
And build them up and not like be positive, be positive, but not give them too much negative comments. But it would be constructive
criticism
to help them build and grow and maybe go on to that major market.
Correct.
After their time with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is my goal.
So one last thing for your whole company and your, program for the younger generation. What is your dream location?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I think Nashville is definitely a dream location.
Tiffany Kay, what is it? Media company?
I don't know, man.
In Nashville.
I don't know. We'd have to talk about it.
That'd be kind of cool.
Because you would definitely be part of it. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll just like sweep the floor.
No. You'll be the business guy because you're really good with finances.
Yeah.
We'll have you on that side. You even said it. You're like, yeah, that's me.
I am not. Do the budgeting.
I am not. I'm like, ooh, let's go do this.
You can't get those hoverboards in the studio. Yeah.
But why?
Do they even have? Well, that's another topic.
That's another conversation.
Yeah, we don't want to keep it going.
But yeah, so I think that's where I would want to be.
Wow. Well, thank you, Miss Tiffany Kay.
Well, thank you for interviewing me.
Sharing your story.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, hopefully it helps the younger generation in radio or just media in general. And I know people have asked what my story is, so it's fun to share it.
Yep.
If you were bored by this, I'm sorry. We'll have a more entertaining one next time.
Yep.
I'm sorry it went over a little bit too, but if there are any more questions for me, as you've said before, that was our dog Buddy.
Yep, thanks,
he just
buddy.
woke up from his nap.
Yep.
If there are any questions, for either of us, especially because I'm going to be interviewing you next, please make sure to send them to us. Social media.
Or if you want questions asked, we'll try to answer them.
Yes. Facebook, Instagram, Tiffany Kay right now on Facebook, and Tiffany Kay on air on Instagram. You can also comment underneath all of our streaming services we're using. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, comment. We will answer them. We will get to them in the next podcast. And the next time around is your story.
Ending episode 3?
Episode 3?
Yep, episode 3. We like to end it off. Don't forget to tell someone that you love them, that's close to you. Make sure you let them know that you care for them, and just try to take care of yourself, please. So thank you guys for listening.